and we are here at American Legion High School with Adrian Rehn, who is the Vice President of the Oak Park Neighborhood Association. So thank you so much for coming and welcome.
Yeah, of course.
We just want to get started. Can you give me a little background about yourself, where you came from and how you ended up here in Sacramento?
Yeah, of course. So Sacramento is actually the biggest city I've ever lived in.
Wow.
I hail from a small town in Mendocino County called Casper.
Oh, okay.
I think population 500. So small
Yikes.
town, kind of out in the woods in Mendocino County. Beautiful place. And I was born there in 91. And my parents actually found their way there by meeting in the 1970s in a Berkeley vegetarian cooperative.
Okay.
And they decided to kind of do a back to the land type of deal and built their own home in Mendocino County on 10 acres out in the woods. And me and my little brother grew up out there.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So from Casper to here, what led you to Sacramento?
Yeah, so I ended up going to college at UC Davis, and that was my that was the big city experience for me at the time. 60 or 70,000 people, was a lot. And then I graduated from there, worked some odd jobs before I worked a campaign gig and then worked for another nonprofit. And then I got a internship at Valley Vision, which is the nonprofit I currently work for, a little over 5 years ago. And that's what brought me out here. That's what encouraged the move. And I've been initially moved to Oak Park 5.5 years ago. And then I played around in Curtis Park, then Midtown, then downtown for very brief jaunts, and then came back to Oak Park.
Okay.
Over 3 years ago. And I've been in this current house I'm at for over 3 years now.
Got it. So was there something that kept bringing you back, or that brought you back to this neighborhood?
Yeah. So this neighborhood is very special. It's beautiful. It has a lot of really awesome old houses. The people are beautiful. The people are passionate. They're activated. They're diverse. There's a great deal of history in this neighborhood with respect to, it being Sacramento's first suburb initially, the civil rights history in the 60s particularly, and then now as sort of the locus for what you'd call gentrification happening in the city. So yeah, there's a lot going on now here, and that clearly has happened in the past. And
that was what attracted you to kind of settle down-ish?
Yeah,
here?
Just the rich history and the richness of the community, yeah.
A lot of activity, okay. How long have you been here most recently?
So most recently it's been over 3 years.
3 years,
yeah,
okay.
in the same spot. And it's been nice to sort of get a little more anchored than I have been in, since I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely do feel like an urbanite living here. Although I've spoken with a lot of folks who are from much bigger cities who are like, oh, Sacramento's a cow town. Oak Park's a small neighborhood. And so I suppose I will never quite see things the same way, but I can certainly appreciate that viewpoint.
Got it. Yeah. I've lived in bigger places and I felt the difference, but the reason I moved here, I liked that it felt like a community inside the neighborhood.
Right. And I think that might be why I'm so comfortable here, is because you see folks, on the street and at, some of the spots around town, and it does, there is that sort of small town feel within the bigger city. Yeah.
So you work at a nonprofit. What does your nonprofit do?
Yeah, so Valley Vision, we actually just celebrated our 25th anniversary, but we're a nonprofit based in Oak Park.
Okay.
That is basically all about boosting livability in the Sacramento region. So that's Sacramento County and then the surrounding counties. We boost livability through helping deploy broadband in rural areas and public housing communities. We help facilitate air quality monitoring in communities around the region to help empower residents with data. We have a project to try to align workforce development efforts between a whole bunch of different agencies around around the region, and a whole lot more. At certain points, we've had 20 active projects.
Oh, that's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. But my focus is on air quality at Valley Vision.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you're located in Oak Park. Are you on Alhambra or?
We're right actually on the same block as, we're across the street from the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services location. We're right on the corner of 34th Street and 3rd Avenue. Yeah. And we're renting a St. Hope property.
Okay.
So yeah, we're on that block with several other St. Hope properties.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
Very good. So what led you to be involved in the neighborhood association?
Well, living here for one.
Yes.
I think, being a resident and looking at, the goings on in the neighborhood and wanting to, sort of elevate your voice within all the goings on. The neighborhood association is really, I feel like, the go-to avenue to do that. And the Oak Park Neighborhood Association, or OPNA as we call it for short, has this really awesome, strong legacy of doing just that. So, how I mentioned that Oak Park has this this really active culture in terms of activism and advocacy, and OPNA has really been at the forefront of a lot of really great things in the community for years and years, and long before my time. But we've just been a really strong voice for residents here for over 15 years.
Okay. So I want to go back a second because I'm just curious and want to hear a little more from you, because I asked, what got you involved in, you're like, I live here.
Yeah.
And I've been to a couple meetings, and I don't think it's necessarily a given,
Right.
that just because you live here, you're in OPNA. And
Right.
I mean, I should be more involved. And that's something my husband and I have struggled with, with our schedule and everything, and we feel like, yes, we should, but I don't think that, it's just a given among the residents of the neighborhood that, oh yes, we absolutely should be involved. So, what is it that makes you feel like, I live here, I need to be involved in that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think for me personally, I think for me it really is, though. It is about elevating our voice. I think our neighborhood, with its rich history, needs to be at the table in conversations about how the neighborhood changes.
Okay.
There's a lot of change happening in the neighborhood.
Yes.
It has been that way for the last 10 years.
More.
Or more than 10 years, certainly.
Yeah.
Throughout its entire history, but there's been a lot of goings on in the last 10. And I think through this sort of unique organization, it's not what you do for work, but it's a place. It's a space for neighbors to come together and talk about issues that affect them.
Got it.
There's a concept called the third space. So the third space is a place that's not work and it's not your home, but it's a place where you can go outside of those two other sort of default places. And I think that's not only a physical space, it's sort of a more nebulous, you sort of assign meaning to it depending on sort of where you are in life. I think third spaces are very powerful for bringing folks together around important issues. And I think OPNA serves as a third space for a lot of residents.
Got it. Okay.
And certainly for me, too.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So how did you end up being vice president?
I just really like what I do, I think. I think what I really like, and maybe what led me to the interest in being a vice president, was just seeing some other awesome leaders on the volunteer board of directors for OPNA. Joni Titherington is a legend, and she's our current president, and was also the founder of OPNA so many years ago. And just watching her at work is really amazing. She has a real passion for bringing people together, and that's period. She thinks that magic will happen when you bring people together, and you don't necessarily need to have a heavy dose of structure. But the important thing is breaking bread, for example, and just folks being together and understanding each other's story and understanding each other's backgrounds and experiences. So people like her are inspiring, and it's hard to talk about everyone who you find inspiring in this neighborhood because there are so many. But she particularly, I think, made me interested in, doing more than the minimum when it came to sort of being on a volunteer board and, trying to, I guess, test myself by being in a leadership position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what kind of magic do you see happening right now within OPNA?
So I think we're really good at collaborating.
Okay.
For one, when there's a big issue, for example, when we talk about Aggie Square, or we talk about the X Street Alhambra shelter, or we talk about gentrification or housing or environmental justice in Oak Park, we are able to turn out a lot of folks.
Yes.
And those particular subjects are very there's a lot of passion about those, but we also do it in a collaborative manner. And so an example of a project that we have really helped move forward is actually one that is kind of my baby in a way that I'm really proud of. And it's a very simple project, but it was to so there's a place called the Oak Park Art Garden on the corner of 12th Avenue and Martin Luther King, 14th Avenue really. And that's this awesome community space that's stewarded by Alchemist Community Development Corporation, another nonprofit that happens to be based in Oak Park. And I was working with some other advocates in another volunteer role with the Sacramento Food Policy Council. And we have a campaign to try to boost the understanding that you can use CalFresh or food stamps at a lot of local farmers markets. A lot of folks sort of assume CalFresh and food stamps is only for use at low-income grocery stores, for example. But it's really not. You can go get fresh produce at the Oak Park Farmers Market and several other farmers markets around the region. And to me, that's what Farm to Fork is, or at least that's what Farm to Fork should be. So we organized several partners around applying for a creative economy grant from the city of Sacramento. And the purpose of the grant would be to build a sign using a local artist that basically says, use your CalFresh EBT at your local farmers markets. So we're creating a public art piece that has a social message and that can actually help people have access to better food. And that sign is currently, a very big piece of that Oak Park Art Garden, along with some other great things that have been placed there. So I'm really proud of that because we were able to bring together Habitat for Humanity, Alchemist, Valley Vision, the Oak Park Neighborhood Association, and others, and Cap City with the City of Sacramento funding.
Okay.
And it was a really, really cool project.
Oh, that sounds great. That's a lot of different organizations.
Yeah.
That were involved in that. I think one of the things that's impressed me is there are so many nonprofits in the neighborhood, and way more than I realized until very recently.
It's so true.
And it's nice to hear of them working together and collaborating. So I'm curious. I've seen the art garden, and I've seen on Facebook Jill and I think probably you and a couple other people have been good about publicizing what's going on down there. Do you see a lot of community involvement in the art garden?
Yeah, I do. Every time I go there, it seems like there's a new thing going on. Just recently, there was a group called the Global Shapers Sacramento that put up a free spray zone.
I did. I saw that.
Which is basically an open graffiti wall that you can go to and create your own art at any time. And it's supposed to be this open space where, you can sort of mix, being inspired by other people's pieces with evolving other pieces, maybe covering up pieces. I know that's just how things organically happen.
Yeah.
But it's just supposed to be this really cool organic art space. And that's what
residents have been coming to use it.
Sure looks like it.
All right.
Yeah.
So go back down there.
Yeah, and another part of the Oak Park Art Garden is that it's supposed to be supposed to be a place where trees are growing. Where in a few years some of those fruit trees will be yielding fruit, and so a place where you can get some healthy food too.
Got it.
And of course that requires community stewardship.
Oh, that's great. I really like that.
Yeah.
So is there are there any other things going on that you're really excited about right now or coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so through Valley Vision, we received just in December, we're notified that we received a grant award to work with several other nonprofits, including Walk Sacramento, Green Tech, based here in Oak Park, Breathe California, and others, to empower the local community with data by facilitating community-led air quality monitoring in Oak Park. So we have funding to work with the community to deploy 10 air quality monitors and to deliver education about the meaning and the importance of air quality as it relates to health, public health. And ultimately, that will result in the public, the residents of Oak Park, and others, residents interested in air quality in Oak Park who work or play here, in looking at, every 3 minutes, the latest air quality data for each of these 10 monitors. And the community will decide where they go, because the community knows best, where some of these air quality concerns are. And so it's an environmental justice effort, and it's gonna, I think, yield a lot of really great things in the community.
So do you envision the data being used to make decisions, or how would the community use the information beyond being informed about the issue where there are air quality issues?
Yeah, well, so for example, the community can see, let's just say if there's a child walking across Highway 99 to Bret Hart Elementary, and there happens to be poor air quality on Highway 99, maybe they could advocate for something, a carbon sequestration project, or something that would help protect youth who are going over to Bret Hart. Maybe it could be used for community members to say, hey, we have high vehicle traffic emissions on Broadway. Maybe we need to make it easier for community members to have electric vehicles by getting some state cap and trade funding to build an electric vehicle charger or set of electric vehicle chargers somewhere in Oak Park.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that can be done. It's really about community creativity. But once we have the data, it just opens up several untold doorways to using that data.
Got it. Okay. So I'm getting close to wrapping up. I'm wondering, what do you think, those of us who live here, what kinds of things can we do to kind of come together around what's already happening in the neighborhood, without, everybody has differing amounts of time and when they're available and whatever, and what they can contribute. What things do you think we could do to, contribute to steering the neighborhood into a positive direction? Yeah.
Well, there's a really good quote by Arthur Ashe, who's a tennis player, and he says, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I think that is pretty much applicable to any resident with any level of experience in advocating for, community things, or who's just, a parent who's interested in, ensuring that they have a healthy neighborhood for their kid. I think participating in the Oak Park Neighborhood Association, of course I'm going to plug that.
Yes.
But this community is so rich and there's so many ways to get involved. It's really not all that hard to plug yourself into something that you're passionate about, just because there's so much cool stuff going on in this community. Whether you are interested in food justice or, political campaigns or, business, small business, whatever, you're going to find something cool here.
Got it.
And I think that's one thing that comes from the diversity of this neighborhood. And one thing I would encourage folks to do, no matter how limited their time is, to learn the history of the neighborhood. This neighborhood has, as we both have referenced, gone through a lot of change throughout its history. And a lot of that change is, kind of glossed over by some leaders, and then it really does need to be acknowledged, particularly some of the history of redlining and predatory banking that has occurred in Oak Park in the 70s and 80s particularly, but even today.
Yeah.
So just to understand that is really important for both new and old residents. And even if you say, oh, I don't have time, I just need to find a way to plug in, at my level, I think there needs to be an honest effort made to understand that piece of it.
So one last question, kind of where would people look? People who are new to the neighborhood or maybe aren't as plugged in. How would they go about it? Finding the opportunities, finding the information to educate themselves?
That's where we come in.
Got it.
And thank you for that. You can go to oakparkna.com and just plug in with the Oak Park Neighborhood Association. We have monthly meetings the first Thursday of every month at the Oak Park Community Center. They start at 5:30, go till 7:30, and each month we'll talk about a different issue. Some will, Aggie Square is going to have more people than some smaller issue. I shouldn't say smaller, but you will find something to talk about. You'll find neighbors to speak with and people to connect with every month.
Okay.
So encourage any residents, whether you live, work, or play here, so not just residents, to come out and join us when they're able.
Okay. Good. I'm also going to plug your Facebook page because I found out about a lot of things going on that you've shared, that Michael Blair shared, and several of the others, that I've learned about a lot of community events and a lot of opportunities for involvement through that Facebook page.
Yes, the OPNA, Oak Park Neighborhood Association Facebook page is great.
Yes.
And we understand that Facebook isn't whatever. Not everybody's
Conversations
on Facebook.
aren't always pretty, and everybody's not always on Facebook.
Right, but we are, we're active on Nextdoor too, and we always try to ensure that we have an up-to-date website and all these things. But digital tools are one thing. It's always great to get together in person too.
But coming to the meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you. This is super cool. Yeah. Keep on doing it.